So, hello and welcome to our WIN seminar on Jin Shin Jyutsu. I hope I said it correctly in Japanese. Help is in your hands with health coach Heike Hördemann. Welcome, Heike. So what are we going to do? Basically, Heike will introduce us to this Japanese self-healing art that uses our hands, our fingers. And so it is something that you can do anywhere, anytime, and it will help you to regulate your stress and build resilience so that you can go from exhausted to energized. And it helps you stay on track and keep your health and well-being goals as a top priority, because sometimes we, especially as women, we tend to forget about ourselves and our priorities. And it will shift you from stressed and stuck to more focused and fired up. So if you have a new idea or project, you'll be able to carry that forward. And then there are some movements and postures and reps that can also help to have, if you have neck pain or shoulder pain or back pain, they can calm down. So very briefly about Heike. I got to know Heike personally last December. And when we met, we clicked immediately. It was like we had so many things in common and interests in common. And so Heike was in the hotel industry for more than 20 years, a professional, and getting to know herself always better as the years went past. She became interested in yoga, and then she eventually found also Jin Shin Jyutsu. And so now she's a trainer, a yoga teacher, a practitioner, and she teaches this self-healing art. And Heike is German. She was born in Germany, and she traveled a lot and worked a lot in many different countries in the world. And she is married to a brilliant man. Marco is a pianist. And they live in the countryside near Palombara Sabina, nearby Rome. And they have animals and a beautiful house. And now they are opening their house for retreats of Jin Shin Jyutsu, of course, and yoga and nature coaching for people from all over the world. And so Heike will tell us more about that and what she can offer. So Heike, again, welcome. Thanks for being with us, and I hand over the floor to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation, Marlena. Thank you again for inviting me. And well, I was actually thinking whether going for a presentation, yes or no, today, but then I decided yes. Also, if it's simply for the name Jin Shin Jyutsu, which if you don't see it in writing, you will never understand what it looks like. So there's only very few slides, don't worry. And we will start. We will start immediately with the spelling of the name. So as Marilena said, Jin Shin Jyutsu is a Japanese name, but really since we are talking about energy, it doesn't really matter whether it's Japanese or from any other nation, because energy is actually what unites us all. And the subtitle, Help is in your hands, is something that I slightly changed. The actual title is Health is in your hands, but really health and health goes together. Well, Marilena already did a really great introduction. So I skip over this maybe more quickly. Really what I would like to say is, because I also, as you see, I've even prepared an entire slide on the things that I would like to do or on the tools I'm using. But really, when we talk about Jin Shin Jyutsu, there is nothing else that we need to mention rather than saying that it's really so simple, and all you need to have is your hands. The translation of Jin Shin Jyutsu is Jin is man of knowing and compassion. Shin is the creator. Jyutsu is art. And altogether, it's the art of getting to know or getting to help myself. And although I believe we all know what energy is, still I've put in some quotes that are my favorite quotes. This from von Einstein, I'm sure everybody knows it. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. And really, if we think about it, usually when we realize that energy is not flowing the way it should, hence, if we wake up in the morning and we feel completely tired and we have to drag ourselves out of bed, that's actually when we notice that we are made out of energy. It's not that we are technically ill on our physical body, but it's really just that energy is not flowing the way or is not circulating the way it should be circulating. The same happens. It's an example that I always quite like to view usually. If you take a lamp, any type of lamp, and you don't put it in the socket, so you don't get electricity, that lamp, of course, will not work. Although all parts of the lamp may be intact and may be completely perfect, but if the power supply is missing, then the lamp will not actually alight. And the same thing happens with us. So our physical body can look apparently perfect, but energy, and it's not really missing, but energy may be stuck somewhere. So we are always connected to that eternal source of energy, that universal source of energy. But there may be obstacles within our body that make that energy cannot flow the way it should be flowing. Another quote from Einstein is, everything is energy and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. I know that as we are all sitting together here, I believe all of us know how important energy is, but sometimes people are skeptic when you mention energy, and really it's nothing holistic or esoteric, but really it's nothing else than physics. We know from the quantum physics that we are made big part of energy, or we also call it empty space. So if we look at our physical body, we are made out of cells, out of molecules, out of atoms. And between that materia, there's lots of empty space. Now, they say in quantum physics that we are made 99% out of empty space. Empty space is translated into energy. Therefore, I think it's very logic that if we really want to achieve health, we have to look into that 99% rather than into this 1%, which is materia. And that's all we are doing with all types of energy works. Jin Shin Jyutsu is not a technique, but it's an art. It's a very simple way of helping ourselves to get energy flow in our body. The difference between art and technique is that a technique needs to be replied, it needs to be learned, it needs to be memorized. An art is something that we all, in a way or the other, already have in ourselves. And it's very simple, and everybody can apply it. It's the getting to know or help myself. And it's usually it's a lifelong journey that we start when we start with Jin Shin Jyutsu. I would like to maybe very quickly come back to how I got into Jin Shin Jyutsu. I was, as Marilena mentioned, I used to work in the hotel industry. So I was doing a very busy job, flying all around the world and traveling 5 days out of 7 per week. So I basically never had time to practice anything. And although yoga was already my big passion at that time, I didn't really find time. I've been suffering from back pain since I'm 15, where I had my first accident. And ever since I started to get used to my back pain. So I started living with a constant pain, not realizing that this is not the normal state of being. Just shortly after I turned 40, I decided that I wanted to quit the hotel industry because my passion for yoga has become so strong that I decided that this is what I wanted to do as my profession. So I became a yoga teacher, but my back pain, unfortunately, didn't get any better. After 2 or 3 years, I got introduced to Jin Shin Jyutsu through a very good friend of mine, an Austrian friend. She came over to Rome and she was very, very enthusiastic about Jin Shin Jyutsu. And she said, well, why don't we try, I give you a session. So we did that on the sofa. We did a very simple flow where you basically connect the hands and the feet, so fingers and the toes. In fact, it's called a finger and toe flow. And I will never forget how I felt after that very first session. I felt so realigned. I felt, of course, extremely relaxed. But really what I felt more than anything else was my heart. All of a sudden, I realized that something has touched my heart. And I knew instantly that this is what I wanted to do. And I started, this friend of mine luckily gave me as a gift the Jin Shin Jyutsu book. So I started studying by myself, and then I did quite a few courses. I became practitioner. And then, of course, whenever we get to know something really, really positive or something that can help ourselves, of course, we want to share it with others. So I started to teach self-help with Jin Shin Jyutsu in Italy, also in Germany, in Austria. Luckily, thanks to Zoom, I can do it everywhere. In Italy, I was the first self-help teacher. And now we are up to almost 60 people in our Jin Shin Jyutsu community that are following the self-help. And that brings me to the second point why I believe Jin Shin Jyutsu is so, so useful to all of you or to all of us, is that you can apply it in any moment. I started practicing while I was traveling. I would sit on an airplane and would hold on to a finger. By the way, I would like you to hold one of your fingers. If you just grab any of your finger, just don't think about it, just take any of your fingers and hold on to it for the next 5 minutes. Remember only which finger you took, because later on I will tell you to which attitude each finger is related. That, like this, we already go into practice. So really, you can practice even when you sit in a meeting. You can practice as when you are in a concert, when you're sitting, when you're traveling on the airplane. There's some really great mudras or simple finger holds you can use while you're sitting on a plane. So really, there is no excuse for not being able to apply this art. The other day, I was talking to a lady who is a smoker. And she said she didn't have the time to practice for 1 week. So, of course, I said to her, well, you found 10 minutes to hold your cigarette, to hold on to your cigarette. So in those 10 minutes, you can also hold on to your fingers. And actually, if you start to get into it, you will realize how much time we have during the day where we could use our fingers. We even have some finger holds you can do while you are walking. And when you go to bed, there's another finger hold when you wake up during the night. So there's plenty of things you can, or plenty of moments where you can apply Jin Shin Jyutsu. there is only very few core principles in Jin Shin Jyutsu that we have and that are good to know. I mentioned before, we are connected to an eternal source of energy. Universal energy is how we call it. It's the lamp that is connected to the electricity. That way, we are always connected to that eternal source of energy. What happens is that the moment we are born, or even before we are born, when we connect to this eternal source of energy, the energy in our individual being will follow a specific pathway. And that is ascending on the back, descending in the front. So it does something that we call a cosmic egg or a cosmic oval around our body, circulating 24 hours, 7 days per 7. So ascending on the back, descending in front. Together with this movement, we have inhalation on the back, exhalation in the front. From this generic movement of energy, we have what we call the organ function energies. And if any of you does feel he wants to continue with the study of Jin Shin Jyutsu, then there's courses where we talk about those organ function energies in more specific. Today, of course, we are doing an introduction. If you now want to change finger, so hold the same finger, but on the other hand. I found a really nice quote from Confucius, and it's, the best place where to find a pair of hands that can always help you is at the bottom of your arms. And that's really what Jin Shin Jyutsu is all about. And personally, I don't like to be depending on a doctor or anybody else. I really like the idea of being able to help myself completely. Before I started talking about my back problem or about my back injuries, which actually then got summed up by another 2 really bad accidents I had, where I fell on my back. In one accident, I fractured my sacrum. In the other one, 2 vertebrae. The result was that I wasn't able to move anymore. And of course, all doctors wanted to do a surgery, and I was against it. I always believed in Jin Shin Jyutsu and continued practicing. I practiced for more than 2 years. My back was slightly getting better, but really there wasn't that breakthrough. Most of my friends, of course, even my husband said, you know, how much longer do you want to try with this Jin Shin Jyutsu? Apparently it doesn't work on your back. Still, I continued. And the beauty is, I felt that although I hadn't found the solution for my back pain, but I realized that there was lots of other things that I was working on. And that's one of the other principles of Jin Shin Jyutsu. We talk about cause and effect. Now, the effect in my case, or the symptom in my case, was the back. But the cause was not really in the back, but the cause was in something that we call attitudes. And we will be talking about it in a few minutes. I was very much used to look at my physical body. So I realized, you know, I had a back pain, and that's why I was putting my focus on my back. When I got to know about the attitudes and about the cause and effect relationship, I realized that the cause was something that we call, the attitude that we call fear and pretense. And although I still hadn't understood at the time why that would relate to me, I continued practicing. And I remember that after a 5-day, very intensive course that I did in Austria, I noticed that I had extreme results of all of the treatments that I've been doing. And on the 5th day, on the last day, I was completely healed. That's now 8 years ago. and the back pain has never ever come back. But which is even more important is that I've been working on those attitudes. And this is why when we talk about healing, it's not that we are healing symptoms, but we are relating to the cause. And once you touch the cause of something, that's why the severe healing takes place. I would like to start off with the hand. If you look at your hand, I'd like to quickly. If you look at your hand, you immediately notice that your thumb has a specific place in this hand. I don't know whether you've ever tried to grab a glass, for example, only using the other fingers except the thumb. I recommend to do that only with a plastic glass because it doesn't work. It's actually very hard. And that already explains how important this thumb is in our hand. We call it the director of the orchestra, or we also call it the general harmonizer. All of you have already practiced on your thumb when you were born, when you were a baby and you were sucking your thumb. I don't know, there may be somebody here who hasn't sucked their thumb, but usually I think 99.9% of all people do actually suck their thumb. Now, nowadays, I'm not inviting you to return to suck your thumb, but we are holding our thumb. And related to it is worry. Now, you may ask yourself, well, why is a newborn, or why is what is a newborn worried about? Well, if you think about it, a newborn, anything that happens throughout the day to a newborn is new. It's the voices, it's the smell, it's anything he touches, it's digestion. And even if it's only the milk from the mother, it's something new to the digestive system of the newborn. And there's another example, which I thought about it. I was at a friend's place a couple of weeks ago, and she has a newborn baby. And we were with the baby, and then at some point we, because it was evening, so we let the baby sleep, and we walked out of the room and we shut down the light. The baby started crying, and I just thought, God, this baby, he doesn't know that we are not abandoning him, because it's the first time maybe that it happened. So he may think that he has been completely abandoned. Nobody will ever come back to him. And that's, of course, a big worry. And like this, there may be lots of situations that also in our life may happen. Also, although we are not a newborn anymore, but things that we have to digest. In fact, we call the thumb the lifestyle harmonizer. Depending on our lifestyle, it depends the type or the level of worries that we have. Have you ever, if you think about, have you ever done well, definitely you have, a city break, a city trip? So you may sit on one of those hop on, hop off buses. You may not even walk all day. All you do is driving through a new city, and you are completely tired, knocked out in the evening. This is because you have to digest. You have to digest all the impressions that you see during the day. You have to digest the smells, maybe different language. All of these things we have to digest. In our normal life, we have to digest our job, we have to digest the family, we have to digest the fact that we are never without digestion. That means that even if we could be having a minute between one activity and the other, we usually fill that minute with our mobile phones. So we look at messages, or we are listening to an iPod or anything else. So we basically don't have time for digestion anymore. The same thing happens with our food digestion. Many of us are used to constant eating. I remember that there was in the 80s, there was all these diets where they said you have to you have to have your 3 meals, and then you have to have a break in the morning, you have to have a break in the afternoon with a fruit or yogurt or something else. Really nowadays, fortunately, we know that this is not the truth. But our digestive system also needs at least 4 to 5 hours between one meal and the other. And the same would be good if we would also allow that to our brain. In fact, the holding the thumb, and if you like to, you can already hold the thumb or any other finger while I'm talking you through the finger. It really helps with headache. And that can be all sorts of headache, even migraine. It helps with stomach ache, also with bloating of the stomach, all sorts of stomach aches, nervousness in general. Nervousness is usually related to an overdoing or overthinking. In our world, we always, well, we have that quote in Jin Shin Jyutsu: we are not human doings, but human beings. We always want to do. If you go to India, you will find people maybe sitting in front of their hut, not doing anything. And if you ask them what they're doing, they say they are contemplating. And in fact, that's something that we are not used to. For us, activity means doing. If we are not doing anything, we are inactive, and that's considered negative. Depression and skin problems are also related to the thumb. This is because it's related to the stomach and spleen function. So these are the two organs. You don't have to write it down because I have another slide where you have everything at one glance, the entire hand and also the organ functions. Means that if I hold on to my thumb, I am harmonizing my stomach and spleen energy. Now, the stomach energy is quite clear, is connected to digestion. The spleen energy, and that's interesting, is very much connected as well to our immune system. And it's extremely important in the first 7 years of our life. That's when children create their immune system. So in the first 7 years of life, the thumb is the most important finger, and intuitively, the newborn actually sucks his thumb. I personally like to hold my thumb after the meals for digestion, or also in the evening when I go to bed, because it really helps you to calm down, especially if you're maybe still thinking about things that you haven't been doing, things that you have to do. So it's a very calming, very relaxing finger. The next finger, the index finger, is related to the attitude fear. And Mary Burmeister, who was the lady who brought Jin Shin Jyutsu from Japan to the States, to Arizona, from where it then became also known in Europe. Mary says fear, she did that, she liked to play with the words. So for her, fear was false evidence appearing real. And if you think about it, it's actually, there's a really nice quote from Mark Twain as well, who said, well, I experienced lots of fears in my life, and some of them even realized. So what it means is that really very often when we are in a state of fear, it's fear of something that we'll actually never realize. A really, really small example, when I drove today into town, I was running late. And I thought, God, hopefully there won't be an accident, or hopefully there won't be any more traffic on the way, because otherwise I'll be coming late. And then from there I imagined the whole thing that could happen if I'm not here in time for the presentation and so on. Of course, all of this didn't realize, because I arrived here with plenty of time. And this is just a really small example that very often when we think about fear, or when we have fear, it's something that will never manifest, or that we'll never realize. So it's something that we make up in our mind. And the finger, as I said, is the index finger. The organs are the bladder and kidney. Those are both organs related to the liquids in our body. And the tagline here is being in the flow. And being in the flow is not necessarily connected to the liquid, but really it's connected to being in the flow, in a sense, to be in this actual present moment. And so fear usually is projected to the future. Usually we don't have fear related to the past, because it's already past. We usually don't have fear either to that very present moment, but fear is always related to the future. So the moment we are in the flow, we are in the present, and fear will not happen. Bladder and kidney energy functions are both very special functions, because they circulate throughout the entire body, and both of them circulate very close to our vertebral spine. And that is why both of them are extremely important when it comes to back projects. So almost all back projects are connected to bladder and kidney function, and to the attitude fear. Back problems, it may be in the upper back, in the lower back, it may be the vertebrae, it may be hernias, all sorts of back problems. Muscular problems, all types of muscular problems, teeth and gums issues, addictions of any kind, arthritis, and even here, digestive problems. If you want to swap fingers, we are moving on to the middle finger. And I usually find that this is the best way to remember. If you look at this photo, it's something that we call the general harmonizer. The organs are liver and gallbladder, and it's quite obvious that this is related to anger. And I don't know if I know that some of you are living in Rome, but if you do drive the car in Rome, then you will see this finger quite often. And you also feel tempted to show this finger very often, because whenever you take the car, then anger is usually the first attitude that comes up, considering the Roman driving style. So what we do is we don't show that middle finger, but we actually hold on to the middle finger. And I usually do it even while I'm driving, although I know I probably shouldn't be saying that. So you can stop for a moment and hold on to your middle finger, and you will realize that anger will pass away in really 1 minute. It's liver and gallbladder, the two organs related to it. And the liver in general is an organ for detox, and it's really strongly related to our eyes and to the vision. I suppose that most of you sit in front of the computers as well for long hours. This is something that may have an effect on your eyes, not only because of the light of the computer, but for example, in my case, I don't necessarily like to sit in front of the computer. So for me, it's something that I know that acts on my liver, because I'm doing something that I don't really like to do, but of course sometimes I have to do it, and it goes immediately on my eyesight. Vision is also the vision, a vision of the future, for example. So if you think about it, while we are looking at the screen, of course, our vision is really reduced. We are looking at an angle which is not more than 45, 50 degrees. And if you're doing that 8 hours per day, then your vision, also the aim per vision or the vision of your life, will probably reduce always more, because you are always looking at one certain thing that you have in front of you, and you may neglect everything else that's happening around you. So in particular, who sits long hours in front of the computer should be holding on to the middle finger. There's another move that you can do for tired eyes, which I'll be showing to you after. Hormonal disbalance, menstruation, infertility, menopause, all of these issues are connected as well to the liver function, blood circulation in general, and migraine and tiredness as well. So tiredness not only with your eyes, but also mental tiredness. We come to our ring finger. The attitude is sadness, grief and sadness, and the organs are lungs and large intestine. Now, of course, everybody will say, how on earth could she put the wedding rings to grief and sadness? Well, usually if we get married, it does not really start with grief and sadness, but very often it actually ends with grief and sadness. What I'm trying to say is that joy and sadness are the opposites, but they are also related to each other. The lungs, of course, are related to the respiratory system. Asthma, for example, is a big issue that we can cure with Jin Shin Jyutsu. And the large intestine. The large intestine, whereas the lungs are the rhythm of in and exhaling, the large intestine also has a similar rhythm, which is to retain and to release, because that's what's happening in the large intestine. So to let go is connected to this attitude sadness. It's very interesting. That's something I started noticing teaching yoga. If you have a sad person in front of you, you will never see that person doing a strong respiration or a deep respiration. They will never do this inhale and exhale, releasing their shoulders. Because if they would be doing it, they wouldn't be sad anymore. So the inhale and exhale is part of the lungs. Intestine is letting go in terms of letting go in the digestive system. Loss of common sense is also part of this attitude sadness, and it's related to lung and large intestine. Loss of common sense very often happens when we overthink, or if we are too much connected to the past. You find that the older people get, I'm sure you all have parents in a certain age or grandparents, the older they get, the more they live in the past. The more they will repeat the past. And very often that goes together with a loss of common sense, because of course, if people 99% of the day talk about the past, then that's no common sense anymore. If you do it at a certain age, it's normal. If you do it when you are 30, when you are 40, then that means you did not let go the past. And the ring finger helps you with it. And then the little finger, I always call it the female finger because it's related to pretense. And that's something that we women are very good at. Pretending means saying yes when you actually want to say no. Pretending also means that you can manage everything contemporary. You can do everything. You can manage your family, your job, your hobbies, and you can do all of this even smiling. We also call it the crying clown syndrome. So always smiling to the outside, whereas inside we feel pain. And of course, the organs related to it are heart and small intestine. The heart is where our feelings are being stored. And the small intestine is what we call the alchemist. It actually selects what it is that we need to maintain and what it is that we need to let go of. It does it in the small intestine. So whenever food comes there in an already pre-digested form, of course, the small intestine does this job. It selects thoroughly. And the heart helps the small intestine in this selection. The heart actually tells us what it is that we need to let go of, or what it is that we can still recycle. And the older we get, the more that heart energy becomes important. And this is why it is so important that, for example, in menopause, or let's say after 45, 50 years, those are years where we really have to find our purpose. And we may have to revise, and we may have to change something, because what we've been doing so far may not be right for us anymore in this moment of time. The respiratory system the heart and small intestine is also connected to allergies. The small intestine is where we actually, as I said before, where we decide what it is that we can recycle. The heart is something that that can even lead to a heart attack. So if our heart energy is not in harmony, we may have all sorts of heart issues. And holding on to our little finger, this can help us to work on any of those issues. A quote which is related to the little finger to pretense is from Paracelsus, and it is, "Be not another if you can be yourself." Now, we all, of course, think, well, why should I be doing that? Of course, I am myself. But if you think about it, even throughout a normal day, there are so many different faces that we have to show, which may be the face that we have to show with our family, the face that we have to show in our job, the face that we have to show if we go to a dancing class after work. So, and it's okay to have those different faces. But what we have to realize is what our the most authentic faces that we have. So, and that's something that we can only feel through our heart. So the more we listen to our heart, the better we know what is good for us, and the better we know how we want to be, or how we feel to be. And that's getting to know myself. So that's the tagline of Jin Shin Jyutsu. And then the last is the palm of the hand. And this, as you can see from the name, the breath of life, is the most important function that we have. It's connected to the umbilical and diaphragm. And it helps in general to be in balance and in equilibrium. Here you have the entire hand. So you can see all of the organ function energies. And I can also leave you the attitudes connected to it. So I can I have a chart as well where you can see everything in one hand, or if it's okay with the organizers, we can also maybe give you some slides of the presentation. And that's it for the presentation. Now we come to the most exciting part, which is the practice. I've asked you in the beginning to hold on to one of your fingers. Does everybody remember which finger you took? Do you, while we were talking about the attitudes, can you actually understand why you took that particular finger? Or is there anybody who doesn't really find it all that this is an attitude that regards him? Okay. Well, what I suggest, because we still have 10 more minutes to go, which is great, which is exactly what I wanted to have to go through all of the fingers. Before we start practicing the finger that I mentioned before, there's one hold that I would like to show to you for tired eyes when you sit long hours in front of the computer. And what you do is you put the top of your hand on your forehead, and the other hand goes under your armpit. This works on the liver function. And you'll find that even if you do it only for a minute, you'll find that your eyes are have completely recovered even after a minute. Best if you do it with your eyes closed. And you can do it on one side or on either sides. And then I would like to invite you to practice on the fingers. So we still have time to do one hand. So you can choose either hand, the left or the right hand. And we start holding on to the thumb. And you can hold this way or this way, it doesn't matter. You just hold on to it. So you can also put your hands on your legs. And as we hold onto our thumb, we keep our eyes closed. And we visualize the main energy patterns. So energy ascending on the back and descending in front. Visualizing ourselves as part of this universal energy, which connects us, which connects all of us to that eternal source. And ascending energy on the back is related to inhalation, descending in front to exhalation. And as this energy, that oval egg, travels up and down the outer part of our body, it from there penetrates our skin surface, traveling through the what we call outer skin, deep skin, the blood essence, the muscles, the bones, and the spine. We carry on holding our index finger related to the attitude of fear, false evidence appearing real. Kidney and bladder function energy. And the bladder energy in particular helps us detoxing mentally and physically. With every exhalation, we are breathing out all of the past, all that's currently in our head, all that we've lived so far. And it's without any effort. We don't need to do anything. Mary used to say, let the breath breathe you. Because as a matter of fact, the breath goes automatically. Let the breath breathe you. We carry on to our middle finger. Attitude, anger. Liver and gallbladder function energy. The blood circulatory system is related to these two organs. everything that regards the eyes, the vision, stress in general. Migraine, arthritis, we carry on to our ring finger. Attitude, sadness and grief. Lung and large intestine, other functions. Let go of the past. Inhale and exhale. All respiratory projects, allergies, digestive issues related to the large intestine. And then we finish with, we continue with the little finger. 3/10. Saying yes while we want to say no. Heart and small intestine function. And we finish up with the palm of our hand. So you can hold it either this way, the fingers holding the palm of the hand, or you can also unite both palms of the hand. So this is the prayer position, and it actually is related to the diaphragm and umbilicus function, which are the two functions that are connecting our energetical to our physical body. And they serve as a bridge from physical to energetic body. The diaphragm is what we use to convert the external breath, so the external energy, into internal energy. So with every inhalation, I'm taking in energy. With every exhalation, I'm breathing out energy. And while we are rounding up this session, I would like to leave a couple of minutes for questions, if there is any questions. And also I would like you to continue practicing with the fingers. If you do both hands. If you do not have enough time, you do only one hand. Ideally, you hold every finger 2 to 3 minutes. If that is too much, you can also hold it only 1 minute, or 1 or 2 minutes, like we've done together. If you continue doing it for 3 or 4 days, you will notice a pulsation. Some of you may have noticed it already today. The more you practice, you more feel the pulsation. It's not the blood, but that's energy that starts moving. And when energy starts moving, so that means you are actually on the right track. So something is happening. And you can then decide whether you want to continue with that finger in particular, or whether you want to continue with the other fingers. So as we say, it's an art, it's not a technique. So everybody can hold the finger that you feel is good for you in this moment of time. Is there any questions? I think you have to turn on your...
Thank you, Heike. Chitra, you have the
Yeah,
floor.
Chitra.
Hi, thank you, Heike. I really enjoyed that. It's very interesting. Just to say, one question I have is, so we're just holding, so it's not pressing or anything like that. It's just purely holding. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. It's only holding.
It's like warmly wrapping, no? We could say.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Warmly wrapping your finger with the other hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Chitra. Tina?
Yes, it's something new I discovered. I didn't know, although I know a lot of different practices. I was wondering, are you all offering kind of workshops or something at your place or some other nice place around home?
Yes, I I am offering online classes for Jin Shin Jyutsu. So we meet once a week, and it's about an hour of theory, and then we practice together. So that's for the online, and then I'm also offering the classes in our place near Rome, in Palombara Sabina, and I will be starting at mid of June.
Is that a day or half a day, or can you send us something, or maybe
Yeah, I will
later
send
on?
you information. Yeah. It's really, I mean, I said that to Marilena as well. I'm very happy as well to do something tailor-made for maybe a group of you. So if you say you want to have a full Saturday, a full Sunday, or a full weekend, we can decide what it is that we want to do if we are a group of people. So I'm open to everything.
Yeah, and then there are also courses that you're holding of yoga with Jin Shin Jyutsu and yoga concentrated on the nervus vagus.
Yeah.
So there are several different options, and we forgot to mention the laughter yoga and the hormonal yoga. So really, there is something for everyone.
Yeah, really, maybe very quickly. The more I've been studying Jin Shin Jyutsu, whenever I would teach yoga, I realized that the two things go together. So at some point, I decided to actually call it as well yoga and Jin Shin Jyutsu. So it's a new type of yoga where we are working on the traditional asanas, but we are focusing on the energy flows from Jin Shin Jyutsu. So an example could be the kidney or bladder flow, which goes all along the spine. So in a session like this, of course, I would focus on the spine. Then Marilena mentioned the vagus nerve, for example. That's another type of yoga where we concentrate on the nervous system. So there's quite a few other projects as well that I'm working on.
We will send Heike's contact details around. So if you want to know more, you can directly contact her and get more information and sort of personalized offers. And I can just see Wadzi has on her picture actually beautifully this image here of the hands folded, which is also a symbol for saying thank you and for the energy of the palms that flows. And so is there any other question that you would like to ask Heike from the floor, from our members? Yeah, Sheila.
So I love the fact that you were able to, cure your back pain, and that this very, very gentle method is able to work on internal organs. And I was just wondering if you could go a little bit, if you could explain a little bit more of, how one can use this for internal organs like the heart. I'm just asking for a friend.
Okay. Well, the heart energy is actually one of my favorite as well. And some of you were already here before when we started this session. There's a very simple hold for your heart energy because it actually flows at the outside of your lower arm, and then it ends in your little finger. So your friend could either hold on to the little finger or also to this point here. If it's any specific heart issue, there may be something more specific as well that I could tell you. But in general, this is for all sorts of heart projects. Yeah. Heart, when we talk about heart energy, it doesn't necessarily mean the heart as a physical organ, but it's actually the pathway of the energy. Now, the heart energy has this particular pathway that it, as I said, that it flows along the lower arm and then ends in the little finger. And that's quite interesting because you could even, if you look at your hand, it's quite interesting. You may notice, you may have a finger which is not really straight. So I show my hand, for example, and you will notice that my pinky finger, the little finger, goes all the way towards the other fingers. And you may notice that with any of your fingers as well, there may be something which, what I would like to, this is really important. That's something I didn't say before. In Jin Shin Jyutsu, we always look for the harmonizer. So we never look for the disharmony. So whenever I do a treatment, for example, with somebody, I don't look where the energy does not flow, but I look where there is a good level of energy. So I always connect to the harmonizer. So even if I would look at my hand and say, well, the little finger shows is not really straight, then this simply means that this finger is the best and easiest way to harmonize all of the other energies. Does not necessarily mean that there's a project with the heart or the small intestine. So what it is a reading of our physical body, and we need to understand that it's only an indicator. So even the back pain is an indicator. It leads us through to the cause. But the back by itself, it could be any other part of the body, only shows us that something needs attention. And that's the beauty. So we are always looking for the harmonizer, not for the disharmonizer.
Yes, thank you, Heike. We have a comment from Afshan in the chat, and she says, when you were talking earlier, she was giving the example of a small child holding your finger or hand, no? And in fact, the babies, they suck their thumb and they do it sort of automatically. So they can harmonize themselves by sucking the thumb. Yeah. Okay, so are there any other comments, questions? I hope you feel energized, relaxed. You know what you need to do when you are in the traffic. It's not showing the middle finger, it's wrapping the middle finger. Okay.
And
So,
it's not sucking the thumb tonight
it's not-
to fall asleep. Just hold on to it.
Exactly. Okay, so to be continued, definitely. Heike, thank you so much. And I really
Well, thank you.
loved the quotes that you brought to us, that we are not human doings, but we are human beings. That really struck with me. And that we should not be another if we can be ourselves. And I believe that Jin Shin Jyutsu can help in this and find the balance, no matter where we are, what we are doing. There is another very nice movement that is basically putting your hands like this, because we have energy points here underneath our, what is it called? The armpits. And when I am in meetings and I am like this, people don't notice that I'm holding on. So I'm having like an hour meeting, if I don't have to take notes, of course, where I am re-energizing myself, and I like doing that. So just some ideas. Of course, you need to know where to put your hands and fingers. And so for that, also I have shared in the chat the link to the book. There is a very nice book that I think also, Heike, you contributed in translating it, or in...
Yeah, in Italian. And I was just thinking, I will send you a few links, because in English we have so many books, really, really interesting books, much more than in Italian. We only have one book. So I will send you a few links. There's, for example, one book with all of the quotes of Mary, which is called it's called What Mary Says, and this is where you'll find we are not human doings, but human beings and alike. So this is really something I can recommend. There's a really good book, which is if you accompany somebody who is in the end of their life, which is called A Touching Goodbye, which is it's a book I can really recommend. So you find a lot, lots of holds that you can do with people while they pass away, or preparing them to pass away. Yeah.
Okay, so in the chat, I can see enthusiasm, Heike. Afshan is suggesting that we could organize a field trip, a one-day retreat at your wonderful place. It's like paradise, I really. So yeah, and yeah, let's organize it. That would be wonderful, and then we can learn all the important moves, and each one of us can, perhaps depending on what issues we have, or projects as they call it, we can learn what is good for us individually. Okay.
Yeah, it would be great. I would love to organize it. Yes.
Okay, so thank you so
much.
much, Heike, first of all, and all of you for participating. And I hope that you will find benefits in this. And as I said, to be continued. Thank you so much. Stay well.
Excellent. Don't forget your hands.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.